In today's video, we're going to be trying to predict who is going to dethrone every single current active champion in the WWE today. We're looking at every champion, including those on NXT and all of those on the main roster, plus one championship that's not even a WWE championship. We'll go through each champion individually. I'm going to tell you who I think is going to dethrone them, and I'll try and give you my best reasonings as to why. To clarify, these aren't people who I want to see win. These are people who I could see logically winning next. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And if you are looking for more than just daily wrestling content, consider coming over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where we upload extra series that never get uploaded here, like the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast early, and a whole host of different match watch-alongs that you get to vote for that we can never show here because it would just get blocked due to copyright. So go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's get started with the video. Let's start things off by talking about everyone's favorite title in the WWE, the Women's Tag Team Championships. And these things just simply have not been defended since the night after WrestleMania. These things are completely dormant. There is no tag team division basically to speak of at all whatsoever. Basically, the only viable tag teams are the actual champions and then a team on Friday Night SmackDown, the Secret Harvest. Since WrestleMania, WWE has basically done zero effort to make me or you care about the women's tag team titles, which is a shame because the women's tag team champions are actually very talented. The champions in the last video were Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and they are still our WWE Women's Tag Team Champions after losing the championships at WrestleMania and then immediately winning them back on the Raw after WrestleMania. Which just goes to show that even the women's tag titles aren't even used to develop women's tag team feuds. They use them to develop a feud for the women's Intercontinental Champion that doesn't even involve the women that are holding the tag team championships. It's a shame, man. This division is completely down in the dumps, and with Women's Evolution, the PLE happening just around the corner, I would have liked to see an actual living, breathing division so that we can have a match for these tag team titles with some substance that maybe we would care about. Anyways, in the last video, I predicted that we would get the reunion of the Kabuki Warriors, that we would have Asuka and Kairi Sane, both already having been back to the WWE and already gunning after the women's tag team titles. Unfortunately, one of these two has yet to come back. Asuka is still not back on WWE TV, even if WWE did spoil her return with a tiny little graphic in the bottom corner during the Women's Queen of the Ring reveal. Kairi Sane is back, and I thought there for a second that we might be having Kairi Sane and Io Sky teaming up to go after the women's tag titles, but that doesn't seem to be a priority right now either. Hell, Io Sky just doesn't seem to be a priority at all for the WWE because she's also basically been dormant and hasn't been defending this championship of hers. Asuka is returning, so this is still a possibility, but if anything, I see this happening further down the line because we still have to get through the Queen of the Ring tournament. We still got to get through the Queen of the Ring tournament, and we got to find a way to reconnect these two and for them to start a feud to go after the tag titles, so we are still leagues away from this happening. So folks, I am indeed going to go in a different direction, and I'm going to go in a direction that is so wildly different that it's going to probably get me roasted, but it's so silly that WWE might actually go with it. I'm talking about a team up between Rhea Ripley and Nikki Bella. I know, this is insane. This is borderline stupid, but I genuinely think that this is where WWE is going. We have the Women's Evolution PLE happening on July 13th. We had Liv Morgan take out Nikki Bella. We had Raquel Rodriguez take out Rhea Ripley. Those two are the women's tag team champions, and these two were the ones taken out by the women's tag team champions. It just sort of screams like WWE is going to put another random hodgepodge of people together to form a women's tag team, which is exactly their picture-perfect formula that they've been following for the last several years to go after the tag titles. These two have not interacted as of yet. As of the making of this video, the only thing linking them together is that they were both attacked by separate individual members of the current women's tag team champions on the same episode of Monday Night Raw. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if WWE is gonna be giving Nikki Bella a singles match at Evolution in 2025. So this might be what they end up going with to put as many women on the card as possible. I hate this. I genuinely do. Build a division. Really, you have so many women there, viable and available. Make tag teams. Like, try. But I don't think that there is any desire to try with this division. And I really think that they're just going going to do this right here. Just another assortment of women that have nothing in common with each other coming together to form a temporary tag team to win the tag team titles. So yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this. Nikki Bella and Rhea Ripley are my front runners to win the women's tag team titles. The world tag team titles. You thought that the women's division didn't exist? Let me introduce you to the Raw tag team division, because this thing is also non-existent. I don't think I can genuinely name you more than 3 tag teams that might be viable to win the World Tag Team Championships anytime soon. Anyways, in the last video, the New Day won the World Tag Team titles at WrestleMania in a match that pretty much everyone universally agreed that shouldn't have been on the WrestleMania card in the first place. And we were correct, because the match wasn't good and they haven't done anything with these tag titles since winning the tag titles. They've just been stuck in the War Raiders vortex, just fighting them over and over and over again, without seemingly no other tag teams being built in this division to actually be a threat to the New Day. It almost feels like the New Day are just way too big of a fish on like a non-existent pond at the moment that is the World Tag Team division on Monday Night Raw. It's kind of silly. In the last video, I predicted that the New Day would eventually lose the tag titles to Fraxium, but for some reason they ended up sending Fraxium, one of the most valuable tag teams that WWE had, over to Friday Night SmackDown. I really believe that they could have used Fraxium to actually like build something out of the Raw tag team division. You know what though? I'm glad they went to Friday Night SmackDown, because on SmackDown at least they care about the tag team division, and at least they're having good tag team matches over there. And I really think had they just been sent to Raw, as good of a tag team as they are, they would have just been left to die in that rotted division. So obviously I can't go with Fraxium because they're literally not even on Monday Night Raw. So I have to go somewhere else. And at this point, if not the War Raiders, the Creeds, because those are literally the only other 2 teams that exist in the Raw tag team division aside from the New Day. It's the New Day, the Creeds, and the War Raiders. And if I don't think it's going to be the War Raiders, almost literally by default, I have to go with the Creeds. So sure, why not? I actually wouldn't hate this. This might actually be entertaining, and they might actually be able to do something in this division and breathe it some life. It's the polar opposite on Friday Night SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about the WWE Tag Team Championships. This division is so healthy, and it is arguably the best tag team division in all of professional wrestling right now, based on the teams that are in there, based on the quality of matches that they're having, and based on the storylines that they're having, because these guys are getting promos, backstage segments, actual like storylines developing with beginning and ends, which is a crazy thing to see in 2025 in a WWE tag team division. In the last video, the champions were the Street Profits, and since they've defended the championships in an amazing TLC match, and oh my god, that's gonna go down as one of the best free TV matches in the history of the WWE. Street Profits are crushing it right now. They're having fantastic matches, great promos, great interactions backstage, and in-ring promos with other tag teams on the SmackDown brand. The things are going great for the Street Profits and the tag team division as a whole. In the last video, I predicted that Los Garzas would get this push to eventually be the top heels of the SmackDown tag team division. They have gotten a push, just not within like the actual traditional go after the titles tag team division. Instead, they've been getting pushed towards helping build a relationship between WWE and AAA. They're going to be at AAA Regia later this month, and they were part of AAA WWE Worlds Collide. It's possible that once maybe the dust settles of everything that's going on with AAA and WWE for a little while, that these guys might come back to the tag team division. But I think for now, we're going to put them to rest, and I don't think that they're going to be your next tag team champions anymore. I'm still very impressed by them, and my stock for these guys is still very, very high. It's just that they're a little bit too far removed from the tag team picture at the moment. So I'm going to go with the new toys in town. I'm going to go with the Wyatt Six. I'm going with the Wyatt Six pretty much because they kind of need this. I know it's kind of weird to have a set of characters that are this spooky go after titles, but I think that it's time. I think that we need to ground them a little bit more in reality, and having them go after materialistic goods like world championships might be the way to go. Funny enough, that's kind of what damaged the character of the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, when he started going after the Universal Championship, but I have a feeling that in 2025 they can do this much better as well. These guys are also significantly less on the supernatural side compared to the Fiend, so being more materialistic about things isn't particularly the craziest thing. We did also have Bo Dallas cut a promo talking about how he's here for what he deserves deserves, and he's going to take that. And many of us are interpreting that to be championship gold, whether it's singles gold for him or tag team gold for the group. If I have to pick which of these two specifically would win the tag titles, I'm actually going to go with Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis, because they do like the combination of tag team moves really well with one another. So I'm going to pick those two specifically, but whatever. I'll just say the Wide Six. It's so cool that the Wide Six was added to this division, an already like thriving division, because it gives these guys just so many different teams and characters to have segments with, promos with, and matches with. I think it'd be cool to see them as tag team champions later on in the summer, but more than anything, one of the things that I want to see out of the Wide Six is a PLE match. I don't think they've had one yet. The NXT Tag Team Championships. These things are also dead, it seems. What we're learning from this video is that WWE has really struggled with their tag team divisions outside of SmackDown. And it's kind of crazy to say that about NXT, because for a really long time, NXT was like the crown jewel of tag team wrestling. In the last video, the champions were Hank and Tank. They won the championships at NXT Stand and Deliver, the biggest show of the year, dethroning Fraxium. But then since then, they've kind of disappeared a little bit and haven't really been able to develop a tag team feud. It's weird because they were developing a feud with the Culling, but the Culling just got rid of Brooks Jensen, and Brooks Jensen was kind of one of the guys that you would have thought would have been part of the tag team like picture involving this. So I don't even think the Culling is in the picture anymore. In the last video, I predicted that it would be Dark State, and I'm honestly just going to stay there. I'm going to say that Dark State is going to be your next tag team champions. Anyways, the NXT tag team division has a lot of work to do to kind of get back to its glory days. The Women's North American Championship. Let's talk about this bad boy now. The champion in the last video was Sol Ruca, who won the vacated NXT North American Championship in a ladder match at Stand and Deliver after Stephanie Vaquer became a double champion and was no longer able to have both championships, which I thought was silly if you ask me. I'm really not going to overthink this. I'm going to go with the same thing that I'm predicting here. It seems to me it's clear as day that this is where they're building towards, even though Sol Ruca has other contenders vying after this championship like Kalani Jordan. I don't think that any of those are a threat compared to the person that I think is going to dethrone her. And I think it's Zarya. I think that Zarya is going to be our next Women's North American champion. I think that we're going to get that moment where these two that are such a fun, lovable tag team, they're going to implode. Zarya is going to turn heel. In my opinion, right now, the women's division needs a big, scary heel like a Zarya. I would not be surprised if this happens by Evolution or Great American Bash. So I'm going to stick with this. I'm not going to change my prediction. I'm going with Zarya as our next Women's North American champion in NXT. The Women's United States Championship. We had a brand new champion since the last video, ladies and gentlemen. In the last video, the champion was Chelsea Green. She held this championship with a lot of honor, and she was a fun champion, albeit a fun champion in a division that wasn't particularly thriving. In the last video, I predicted that Zelina Vega would be the one to dethrone Chelsea Green. I had actually been predicting Zelina Vega for like several iterations of this video, and it finally paid off, ladies and gentlemen, because I ended up being correct. Zelina Vega did end up winning the Women's United States Championship. She is running around with the belt also in a pretty bad division. I love Zelina Vega, but I'm gonna be honest with you, since she's won the championship belt, she hasn't really done much to elevate the championship belt, and the championship belt hasn't done much to elevate Zelina Vega either. Like, this relationship right now, unfortunately, I hate to say it because I love this performer, it's just not working. So I think it's time for a change, not just in like having a new champion, but like a completely different type of champion, somebody that the WWE main roster has yet to really be able to sink their teeth into. I'm going with Julia. Julia has already called her shot for the Women's United States Championship. She's already, as of the making of this video, attacked Zelina Vega, raised the title up high. I think it's pretty cut and clear that this is the next major feud for Zelina Vega, and I think it should be her last feud as Women's United States Champion, because I think Julia should dethrone dethrone her. Julia being the next United States champion really serves as a hard reset for this division. And it's kind of crazy to say that this division needs a hard reset, considering the division is literally only like 6 months old. But in those 6 months, WWE has done such a poor job at elevating the women within this division. So I'm at the point where I actually think that the WWE needs to put all of their chips on the champion, on a new face, somebody that has a blank slate with the main roster fans. And I think that Julia can be that person. I just know that a Julia entrance with that championship belt would look so sick that pretty much for that alone, I want to see her be the next champ. So I'm going to lock this in. I think that Julia is going to be the next Women's United States champion, and I bet she does it by the time that we record this video next month. The Women's Intercontinental Championship, also the complete polar opposite of what's going on in the Women's United States picture, because this division, this title, this thing rocks. In the last video, the champion was Lyra Valkyria. She was in the middle of the feud with Becky Lynch. The last time I made this video, Becky Lynch had recently just turned heel, and it was clear that they were going to go towards a match at Backlash. Lyra Valkyria did retain at Backlash. However, I didn't think that she was going to retain at Money in the Bank. In the last video, I predicted that Becky Lynch would be our next Women's Intercontinental Champion. In my Money in the Bank predictions, I predicted that Becky Lynch was going to win the Intercontinental Championship. And ladies and gentlemen, it happened. Because Becky Lynch is our brand new Women's Intercontinental Champion. And so far, I already love this run. She's already had a fantastic promo. She's already this fun, delusional heel. I really like what they're doing here with Becky Lynch. But more than anything, I love how the feud between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria has elevated Lyra Valkyria's stock to the highest that it's ever been. This is how you add a veteran to the mid-card. This is how you use a Becky Lynch. This is how you use a Hall of Famer to elevate the importance of an entire division, of a championship belt, and of your next generation. They're killing it with this feud, and I'm glad that Becky Lynch is our Intercontinental Champion, and I will not hear any of this Becky Hogan shenanigans. I do think that she's going to lose the belt to Bayley. I think that it's also very likely and very possible that she loses this just right back to Lyra Valkyria. But with the return of Bayley, I could see WWE wanting to continue to keep a really powerful lineage for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and to go from one horsewoman to the other, from one Hall of Famer, one main eventer to another. I think that that's a pretty awesome vote of confidence for that Intercontinental Championship. Because then if Lyra Valkyria then beats Bayley, then we have a Lyra Valkyria that is now holding a championship that has a pretty awesome, insane lineage. And now that Bayley's back, she's gunning after this thing. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a women's triple threat at Evolution for the IC title between Bayley, Becky, and Lyra Valkyria. And I could see Bayley walking out on top here, so I'm going with Bayley. The NXT North American Championship. This thing has been moving, ladies and gentlemen. In the last video, the champion was Ricky Saints, and Ricky, I thought, was going to hold this bad boy for quite a long time. The only reason why I thought that maybe Ricky was going to drop this thing was because he might get an early call-up because of just the fact that he's already a veteran of this industry, the fact that he already has so many years under his belt performing in front of like a large arenas. So I thought that a call-up could be inevitable. In the last video, I predicted that he would lose the championship to Lexis King. Lexis King and Ricky Saints were having a little bit of a something that I thought maybe could develop into Lexis King being the next guy to carry the North American Championship, to open up space for Ricky Saints to maybe go to the main roster. What I wasn't expecting was for the championship to go to Ethan Page, and this was a pleasant surprise. Ethan Page dethroned Ricky Saints seemingly on a fairly just rudimentary random ass episode of NXT on a Tuesday night to become our new North American champion. And I really wasn't expecting this, because I thought that they were wrapping things up for Ethan Page and NXT to go to the main roster, and then they started a brand new feud for him that I thought was over at Stand and Deliver, but continued even further to the point where now he's holding a championship and just defended it at Worlds Collide successfully as well. I'm not going to overthink this. I think it's just going to go right back to Ricky Saints. I thought that maybe Ricky might be off to the main roster, but Ricky is right back in NXT, right back in a feud with Ethan Page, and I think that Ricky Saints is just going to take this thing back, and then that's when we send Ethan Page to the main roster. So give me Ricky Saints to be our next two-time North American champion. The United States Championship belt. This thing is on lockdown, ladies and gentlemen. The champion is Jacob Fatu, and I don't see him losing to just like random people. I know that he's going to be defending this thing against Damian Priest sometime soon, maybe Night of Champions, but I just don't see him losing there. The only feud that I see him losing this in is the feud against Solo Sikoa, which is why I have him here. And I don't have Solo Sikoa because I think that he on his own is a threat to Jacob Fatu, but I definitely see the possibility of this match actually happening at SummerSlam for the United States Championship, considering we had the big turn, the big reveal of Solo, I hate you, at Money in the Bank. But the reason why I think that Solo is a threat to Jacob Fatu is because we have the ever-looming presence for like the last year and a bit of Hikuleo, and if this match does happen, I could see a world where Solo Sikoa wins because of the interference of both Hikuleo and JC Mateo. And really the only reason why I would want the championship off of Jacob Fatu is so that he could go for the world championship, because that guy's a main event player like already. He was a main event player like a year ago when he debuted. But yeah, I'm gonna go with this. This is what I went with last video, and I'm sticking with it, especially considering the story has now fully gone off the cliff and is fully there. Before I made this prediction, these guys weren't feuding with each other, but now they absolutely are, and I think the end result is Solo Sikoa as US champ. The Intercontinental Championship. I never thought that after Dominic Mysterio won this thing, that this thing would be on ice as it's been, because it's basically had little to no storytelling behind it, sadly, since Dominic won. Dominic won the championship at WrestleMania triumphantly, and he has defended the championship belt twice against Penta, and then another time against Octagon Jr. at Money in the Bank, but he really hasn't been able to make a storyline out of his singles run with the Intercontinental Championship. Instead, he's just sort of been a side piece character, literally and figuratively, in the women's feud between Roxanne and Liv Morgan. But I think it's time that we develop something for Dominic Mysterio. I'm going to stick with my prediction from last video. I predicted that eventually we would start this feud, likely going into SummerSlam, between Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio. We see Finn Balor planting the seeds of creating doubt and creating separation within the Judgment Day and isolating Dominic Mysterio. So I have to imagine that that's the play. I definitely, at the very minimum, see the match happening, but I'm like not convinced by this pick. I'm just not convinced anytime I pick Finn Balor to win anything, if I'm being honest with you. Which, is it a little bit harsh? Yeah, but it's also realistic. Anytime I've thought that Finn Balor was going to win something, he just finds a way to not win the damn thing. And ladies and gentlemen, we have added a new championship belt to the rotation. At the very least for this month, we have the TNA World Championship. And we have it on here because the TNA World Championship is now part of the WWE ecosystem, because a WWE superstar is running around with this thing. In the last video, the champion was Joe Hendry, and he was actually at WrestleMania representing as the TNA World Champion, having a quick match with Randy Orton, but then he would actually lose this championship, a battleground, to none other than Trick Williams. Tricky TNA is our new TNA World Champion, and I still genuinely cannot believe that we live in a timeline where Tricky is running around as the champion of another organization. I found it hilarious, actually, that he won this belt in front of the president of TNA. It was like putting that other guy on the cuck chair as you do your thing. But that's right, folks. Trick Williams is a WWE superstar running around with the TNA World Championship. I keep saying it, just buy TNA already, WWE. It's pretty clear that that's your intention. I don't think that Trick Williams is going to lose this to somebody else from NXT. I think that he should lose this to somebody from TNA, and I'm going with none other with Santana. Santana is absolutely the best available option to dethrone Trick Williams. He embodies everything right now that TNA is doing right. He's a great in-ring performer. He's great on the microphone. He would be a new world champion, a new face for TNA, and somebody that I really think that they can build the brand around. He already lost to Trick Williams on NXT due to interference from AJ Francis and First Class. So I do think that eventually he'll get a rematch, but he won't win it on NXT TV. I think he wins it at a TNA PLE. Rightfully so. I think he should win it back on TNA soil, TNA territory. So I'm going to lock this in. I'm going to go with Santana. The NXT Women's Championship. What the hell happened here? In the last video, the champion was Stephanie Vaquer, and everything was pointing to her being the champion forever. Like, she was never going to drop this thing. I predicted that she might eventually drop the championship belt back to Julia, because I always felt it was weird that she beat Julia in the first place, because it was reported that Julia had an injury and needed surgery, but then didn't disappear for surgery. So I thought that maybe it was a false alarm and that they would pivot back to Julia as NXT champion. Obviously, this became impossible after WrestleMania because they called up Julia, and Julia is no longer on NXT and wasn't viable to be the next NXT champion. What I wasn't expecting was for the next thing to happen, because I still haven't fully mentally and emotionally recovered from this. Because our new women's NXT champion is JC Jane. I love JC Jane, but this just came so out of left field and it genuinely just completely sideswiped me. Well played, WWE. I've always said that JC Jane is too damn talented to not at least be in the main event picture in the women's division in NXT, and they took it really literally this time around because they put her in the division and immediately gave her the belt. I was shocked and concerned. I thought that maybe Stephanie Vaquer was injured or something, but it was just to fully call up Stephanie Vaquer to Monday Night Raw, and now our new champion is JC Jane and Stephanie Vaquer is no longer on NXT. I'm gonna keep this simple. I'm gonna give the championship belt to the new toy that WWE just signed for big money, that being Mariah May, now by the name of Blake Monroe, that I know has a lot of people complaining because WWE fans will just find a reason to complain about anything. Like, it's just a name. The name is fine. Listen, it could have been worse. It could have been MM Mateo or something. I'm fine with Blake Monroe. I think it's a fine name. There is a women's tournament for the NXT Championship that's scheduled for Evolution, and I don't know as of the making of this video if Blake is in that tournament. I have to imagine that she is going to be, considering that they signed Blake from AEW. AEW All In is happening the day before. I could see WWE wanting to create some headlines of putting a championship belt on Blake on the same weekend as All In. That's kind of the MO of WWE these days, to just try and counter program anything that AEW does. And honestly, she should be your next NXT Women's Champion. If you haven't seen Blake before, Mariah May in AEW, I'm telling you, she is unbelievably good. She was one half of what I genuinely believe is the greatest women's wrestling feud of all time. And if she can bring half of that magic to NXT, the NXT Women's division is cooked. Let's talk about the Women's World Championship. And this thing is on ice, it seems. The champion in the last video was Io Sky. She is still the champion. And of course she's still the champion. You want to know how I know she's still the champion? Because she hasn't defended the damn thing, so hasn't been in danger of losing the championship. Io Sky's too talented. Like, simply, let's just call it how it is. She's too good to be kept on the sidelines, to be benched, to not be used. What is going on here? And she's like getting over. She's super popular. This whole little Fortnite emote thing that she does, like, people love this thing. We need to be using Io Sky more. In the last video, I predicted that WWE would just be boring and just pivot right back to Rhea Ripley, and it's possible that they might still do that, but I think that Rhea Ripley is going to be busy with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez in this tag team program, probably at Evolution. Don't get me wrong, Rhea Ripley is going to be your world champion at some point this year. I just feel it in my gut that it's going to happen. I'm actually going to go with Liv Morgan. I'm going to go with Liv Morgan to be the one to eventually dethrone Io Sky. We see these two having little micro moments backstage, like pretty much every single episode of Monday Night Raw. So WWE is slowly building the little building blocks so that eventually we can have a full-blown Jenga tower between Liv Morgan and Io Sky. And honestly, I am so down for that match. I wish that they were a little bit more, to the point and get the feud going and a proper storyline going between these two, but they're really taking baby steps here. But I do think eventually those baby steps will lead to a match, and that match will likely lead to Liv Morgan as world champion. So I'm gonna book it. I'm gonna say that the next women's world champion after Io Sky is gonna be right here, Liv Morgan. The WWE Women's Championship. Let's talk about this sucker now. The champion in the last video was none other than Tiffany Stratton. Defended the championship successfully at WrestleMania against Charlotte Flair. Went on to defend successfully in a fantastic match against Nia Jax. A win that she desperately needed to really help solidify her as a strong, viable champion, because she had yet to properly beat Nia Jax up until this point. Similarly to Io Sky, she's also sort of been on like the back burner. She hasn't really been used, hasn't had any major PLE appearances. Like, it's just crazy that neither one of the top women's world championships has been on Backlash, Saturday night's main event, or Money in the Bank. What's going on there? I have to imagine that they have to at least make it to Night of Champions, but even then, I don't know that they will, considering Evolution is 2 weeks later and you might want to save it for then. Anyways, I'm gonna go with the same person that I predicted last video. I predicted Naomi, who was just off the heels of that match that she lost at WrestleMania to Jade Cargill, but yet I still felt like she was the best option to eventually rise and dethrone Tiffany Stratton. And I'm happy to say that I think we're there. I think we're there at that moment. She has elevated herself more and more as a character, and she has won the Money in the Bank briefcase. And in my opinion, she is the absolute best candidate to dethrone Tiffany Stratton with a cash-in. It would just be so perfectly full circle for Naomi, who got cashed in on by Tiffany Stratton in the middle of her match, so she wasn't able to beat Nia Jax because of Tiffany Stratton, and now it'd be poetic if now she cashes in on Tiffany Stratton. So I feel stronger now more than ever that it's going to be Naomi. I'm gonna lock this bad boy even more. The NXT Championship. Let's talk about the championship that seemingly is never going to change hands. The champion in the last video was Obafemi, and Obafemi is still the NXT champion, and it doesn't look like he's going to be losing this championship anytime soon to anybody that's an actual wrestler. So as always, let's maybe look outside of the world of professional wrestling to see who is going to dethrone Oba. We could look at Ted Lasso, one of the most kind-hearted, most lovable characters in TV history. He might be able, with kindness, to convince Obafemi to give him the championship belt. We have the greatest chess player of all time, the #1 in the world, Magnus Carlsen, after losing to Gukesh. Did you see how scary he was when he slammed that table? Death from the Puss in Boots movie. If you've seen this one, you know that this is like one of the greatest animated movies of all time. And two, you know that this is like one of the scariest villains of all time. Brock Lesnar, if you know, you know. George R.R. Martin, if he were able to bottle the power of his laziness and put it into a wrestling character. George, you lazy fraud, get writing! But I'm actually going to go with LFG winner Jasper Troy, who just had a match against Obafemi, basically being brand new to the WWE and NXT, and took Obafemi to the limit. So my logic is, if Jasper Troy is already giving Obafemi the hardest match he could possibly have while being green as grass in NXT, imagine with a PLE cycle or two, with a bit more experience, with more storyline developed, we might be seeing Obafemi's days actually being numbered now that Jasper Troy is in the NXT roster. The World Heavyweight Championship. What the hell happened here? The champion in the last video was none other than main event Jey Uso. After dethroning Gunther at WrestleMania, he would successfully defend his championship at Saturday night's main event against Logan Paul, have a fantastic title defense against Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw, and then seemingly very randomly loses the championship after only 51 days as champion on Monday Night Raw to Gunther. Folks, in the last video, I don't know what I was thinking. I was clearly high on copium because I went with Karrion Kross off the back of that awesome WrestleMania podcast segment that he had, where I just thought they were going to push him to the moon. But here I am, another one of these copium victims on the streets, thinking that Karrion Kross was actually going to get some love from the WWE. I got clowned for this, respectfully and understandably so, but I really thought, okay, I think I can prove them wrong. I think the WWE is going to put, no, nothing happened here. I'm just an idiot, a hopeful idiot, okay? I really wanted to believe in this. Like, Karrion would have been a good foil to Jey Uso, but we'll never find out because WWE didn't really give the Jey Uso run enough legs to eventually maybe visit a feud like this. I definitely reached for the skies here. I probably shouldn't have gone with Karrion Kross, all right? I admit it. Instead of Karrion Kross, as I already said, Gunther is our new World Heavyweight Champion, and now we have to ask the question of who dethrones him. We have a couple of things in the mix. We have the Money in the Bank briefcase that's entered the ecosystem, but I'm gonna be honest, I just don't see Seth Rollins cashing in on Gunther. It's actually one of the reasons why I was kind of bummed that Gunther won, because now Seth Rollins' run as Mr. Money in the Bank kind of just gives him tunnel vision to only go after the WWE Undisputed Championship and what's going there with CM Punk and maybe eventually Cody Rhodes. So now the drama of Seth Rollins cashing in on both championships kind of disappears with Jey Uso no longer as champion. And I did question the decision to go back to Gunther because Gunther didn't have a great run in the first place. You might not like Jey Uso, but at least they were trying new things with Jey Uso. And I already thought that in the short amount of time that Jey Uso was champion, he was already more interesting as a champion than Gunther. And I like Gunther more than Jey Uso, just to clarify. The other viable option where somebody could come in and dethrone Gunther could be through the King of the Ring tournament. And I think that we could have one of those people be the ones to dethrone Gunther. I think Sami Zayn might have to be considered the favorite right now to dethrone Gunther based on his history with Jey Uso, based on his history of being one of the few to beat Gunther already for a championship at WrestleMania 40 for that IC title, and based on the fact that we have the King of the Ring tournament in a very Sami Zayn friendly territory in Saudi Arabia. And we know WWE likes to give the Saudi crowd the feel-good moments pretty much time after time, and I don't think like it gets more of a feel-good moment for them than to give them Sami Zayn as the King of the Ring winner, which then sets us up for Sami Zayn versus Gunther for SummerSlam, which I think is a very viable possibility. Which, by the way, if Sami Zayn were to win that, I would expect that maybe Seth Rollins could actually cash in on Sami Zayn, creating a very similar moment to when Daniel Bryan finally won the championship, only to get cashed in on by Randy Orton. But yeah, I'm going to go with this. This is a fresh championship change, so there really isn't much to go off of. So I'm using contextual clues of things that could happen in the future to make this call. I could absolutely see myself changing my opinion within a month, but right now, I think that this might be the smartest choice that I have based on the evidence that's there. And now let's talk about the WWE Undisputed Championship. In the last video, the champion was John Cena after dethroning Cody Rhodes' year-long reign at WrestleMania 41, ruining wrestling for all of us, and since then he has defended successfully against Randy Orton. He also went on to have a non-championship match against R-Truth at Saturday night's main event in a tag team match where he was actually pinned by Cody Rhodes at Money in the Bank. I know right now the hot commodity is Ron Killings, that Ron Killings might be the one to dethrone Cena, but I see, if anything, Ron Killings may be being part of the reason why John Cena loses the championship, as opposed to being the guy to actually take the championship away from John Cena. So even though Ron Killings has entered the equation and is this like mega hot superstar at the moment, I'm not going with Ron Killings. In fact, I'm not changing my choice because I still think that TKO wants it to be Cody Rhodes, regardless of how popular R-Truth is getting. I think that this was always the end goal. I think that it's John Cena probably going down to his last day in the WWE, eventually losing to Cody Rhodes. Likewise, I think it's very possible that Cody Rhodes defeats John Cena at SummerSlam. I think it's pretty clear that WWE is gunning for John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, considering they're already using John Cena versus CM Punk before SummerSlam. And if they're not going John Cena versus CM Punk at SummerSlam, I think the next most logical match, don't you agree, is John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. But here's the thing. I'm going to predict that Cody Rhodes has this match at SummerSlam with John Cena and defeats John Cena, but I'm not going to say that he's our next proper champion, because I think that once he beats John Cena, bang, I think that we're going to have Seth Rollins cash in on Cody Rhodes, win the WWE Undisputed Championship, take credit for saving professional wrestling, while at the same time finally getting his win over Cody Rhodes. All right, folks, that's it. There was a lot to talk about in this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.